want to talk a little bit about choosing the right partner, how a man, and obviously a woman too, have to really think about their partnerships. But I want to look at this from a man's perspective. Why finding the right life partner is certainly, there are certain factors, right? Number one, chemistry is hugely important. Now, that's usually the first start of having a good relationship, is good chemistry, you get along. I mean, these are sort of like the basics, right? You have fun together, you enjoy each other's company. Those are really fundamental things. But then it's interesting when you start to get to know someone, you start to ask deeper questions, right? You know, you've got your first period where it's purely driven by chemistry and laughs and just good dialogue and going out and having fun and all the stuff that really matter, right? That's how you get to know somebody and see that you're compatible in so many different ways. But then something else kicks in, right? After a few months go by, you start to, and again, it varies by age, right? If you're in your early 20s, this phase might not kick in for a long time. But if you're in your mid-30s or early 40s, you might find yourself quickly thinking about, hey, is this person, and also depends on your previous life experiences. Did you have bad relationships? Did you have good ones? Did you have difficult ones? Did you have difficult breakups? And all of a sudden, sort of your past shapes a lot of your thinking in terms of what criteria you are observing in another person, right? What are the things that you're seeing in this other person that either are vastly different than your previous relationships, which often could be a good thing. Hopefully you're not looking for, let's say you were in a toxic relationship, you're not looking for those toxic qualities in another person, because sometimes we tend to have that sort of way of doing things. It's like we're masochists, and you know, it's I'm not a psychologist, there are a lot of factors that play into that. But let's say you're wise enough and you've gone through enough to where you know, hey, you know, I know what I want, I know what I don't want, what I won't tolerate, right? So you start creating your list of pros and cons about each person based on life experiences of things that you will accept in your life and things you will absolutely no longer tolerate in a relationship. And those will become the driving forces of your future relationships. And so what are those things that are perhaps on a very fundamental level, without getting into each individual need, because there are different needs based on your personality, based on your circumstances, there are varying factors. But just sort of like looking at this from a much higher level, right? What are the qualities, especially if you're looking at creating a solid legacy for yourself and for your family? As a man of the house, of somebody who wants to preserve a strong family tie and to create a legacy for himself and his children and for for his future generations, you will be looking at certain things that are vastly more important than perhaps some more superficial things. And these things can really make or break not just a relationship, but can make or break a person and even a family. And so what are those things? So personally, I had experiences that really drove me to say, for example, I want somebody who is financially responsible. They understand the value of money. Now, what do I mean by that? There are a lot of people that tend to not value money very well. They don't know how to manage it well. They are extremely whatever comes in goes out, right? They cannot hold any cash. And those are relatively dangerous individuals when it comes to building a legacy, because it will be very difficult for them to understand where you're coming from. What are the values that you have with money to help you grow that into something meaningful for the future? So if a person doesn't have a savings account, and whatever they do have, it's because they're waiting just to take that next vacation, right? That could be an extremely costly way of approaching building a legacy. What you look for in a person when it comes to finances is someone who has similar outlooks, perhaps similar outlooks in terms of building a family. What do I mean? They say, look, I want to have a family with you. I want to put something meaningful for our children. Yeah, I like nice things, but that's not my priority in life. I don't want to spend all our money. In fact, I'd rather save this money and you and I go make some investments. What you want to do is you want to be listening for triggers. You want to be listening for the key words that will, help you assess this individual's true, deepest convictions, right? And it's not only words, right? It's also actions. You need to be watching. You need to be observing each other. And that person's doing the same with you, by the way. They're looking at you. They're listening to you. They want to know, what's important to you, how you manage money. If they care and they watch you and they see how you manage money, and if they are vocal about that, that's probably a very good sign that they could be, in fact, a great partner, because they're looking at the same thing that you're looking at. If, for example, you only have a couple thousand saved and they come to you and they say, hey, why don't we go take that vacation, and when we get back, we can start thinking about saving. Or perhaps they look at their credit card debt as not a bad thing. They perhaps have a ton of money. They buy new shoes every weekend, or they spend a couple $100 a week on eating out, as an example. Those could be flags, right? Those could be red flags on someone who just cannot budget themselves and perhaps may give you a very difficult time, because it's hard when one can't manage their own finances for themselves. It's very hard for them to see a way to do it with a partner. So you just need to sort of observe these things and say, all right, well, if this person is willing to do that, and by the way, you don't want to also jump to conclusions. That person might have fun because they've been single for so long and they didn't really care. They might have a little savings and they want to enjoy themselves and meet people because they're looking for a life partner or what have you. But if you're in your 30s, especially in your 30s, and that person is still living paycheck to paycheck and has a ton of credit card debt and buys brand new shoes every week and can't seem to hold on to any cash, perhaps it's a drinking issue, or it's a eating out issue, or it's a buying clothes issue, or it could be a million things. All of these are things you should be looking at. But also, it's sitting down and having those deeper meaning conversations where you say, hey, look, our relationship is sort of like going to this next level. How do you feel about such X, Y, and Z? How do you feel about starting a family? What do you think about putting money together so that we can start making an investment and maybe buy our first house, or those things? And based on the response, you're going to know whether or not this person is serious about taking the plunge. One thing you want to be cautious about is sometimes people say what they think you want to hear, and so you need to keep that in mind as well. So have those conversations, but also watch. Keep a mindful eye on what's actually happening, what that person is doing, how they're conducting their own life, what they tell you about how you conduct your life and your finances. Are they proud of you when they see that you're doing X, Y, Z? Do they applaud you? Without you broaching the subject of saving or investing, do they talk about it on their own, right? I want to make an investment. I was thinking to buy a house. I already own a house. My dreams are X, Y, and Z. Those are significant tools in helping you determine whether or not somebody is a good life partner from a financial perspective. Of course, there are many other factors that determine good life partnerships, but money is a big issue. And we need to understand that money can easily and often easily makes and breaks relationships. So I just wanted to put this out there. I would love to hear your experiences if you have any. I've had my share of experience. We all have our paths. I've had difficult relationships with people that were very frivolous with money, and I've been with people that are extremely, not stingy, but extremely conservative with money. And so you want to balance, right? You also don't want someone who's absolutely freakish about saving where they don't know how to live. So I think it's about understanding that you can work together, right, to find answers and solutions that makes life beautiful, balanced and beautiful. And that's what I wanted to talk about. I'll see you in the next video.